destiny awaits. You were right about one thing. This ends now. Come on, Granddaddy-O. We've got dirt to do. With Shadow's power, we can rule humanity.
Here we go. Showtime.
What is this den of madness?
Are you Detective Pikachu?
Do you mind?
Oh, excuse me.
Tom, Maddie, we need your help on a super dangerous top secret mission.
When?
Are you ready?
We were born ready.
All right, boys, try and keep up.
Remember to listen to your heart. You're gonna make the right choice when it matters the most.
One head down to another. Put down your highlights.
The more you talk, the harder I want to hit you.
This ends now.
When we're done, there won't be anything left to rule. That is dark.
Somebody better call Google Maps.
Life's all the choices we make. What good is a dastardly plot if you can't conspire with family?
There's two Eggman now?
Double your villains, double your fun. Any last words?
Nice magic marble. Real scary.
Look like a Pokemon. Pika Pika.
Konichi, what? Get down.
It's time, Shadow. Finally, we will have our revenge.
Scary. That actually is real scary. Trick shot. Tom, Maddie, we need your help on a super... No.
Music heat, heat, music, applause, heat, heat, music heat, applause, music heat, applause, music contains applause, and music heat, oh heat, music heat, oh heat, oh music, oh to applause, oh heat, music heat, heat, music to applause, music, applause, up here, music's applause, music in this video. We will dab into the movie Sonic the Hedgehog 3. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide their reviews and personal reactions. Let's begin with the movie story. The film opens on Prison Island in Japan. Gun's courtyards are keeping an eye on Shadow the Hedgehog, voiced by Keanu Reeves, who has been kept in status for 50 years. Shadow experienced flashback of a girl named Maria. Suddenly, someone hacked into the Scotty system, causing Shadow to reawaken. More gun agents storm the place right before Shadow bursts through his containment port. He uses teleportation power to attack the agents, knocking all of them out before making his escape. In Green Hills, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles engage in a race to see who is the forest out of all of them. Sonic ends up being tricked by holograms and ends up going back to find that Tails Knuckle, plus Tom and Maddie and Uzi the dog have prepared a celebration for Sonic Anniversary for his arrival on Earth. Later, Sonic and Tom come upon Sonic's old cave that he lived in before meeting the Watches. They see a drawing that Sonic made of Long Claw, and he admits that he still misses her. Tom tells Sonic that despite everything has been through, he has never changed who he is. The first events are integrated by gun agents led by Dr. Rockwell. She brings Sonic, Tails, and Knuckle with her to Japan for an urgent matter. They drop down into Tokyo, where Shadow has caused destruction after battling more gun agents. Team Sonic arrives to take him on, but he proves to be too fast and powerful. Sonic gives chase while Shadow rides a motorcycle and fires his gun at him. Shadow ends up fleeing from Sonic's view. The two go to Jaw Garden and meet Commander Walters. He explained to them that Shadow was discovered in a M-Tour that come to Earth. He possesses chaos energy and was deemed too dangerous. The lab where he was experimented on exploded, and the professor who tested him was arrested and incinerated. Moments later, egg drones arrive and attack, fatally injuring Walters. But no, before he gives Team Sonic a key card to secret gun weapon, a mysterious biker burst in and disable the trance before riding away. The True flee before Rockwell and other agents arrive, and he assumes that they stole the cars. Team Sonic catches up to the biker, who turns out to be Agent Stone. He claims that he and Dr. Ior Robotic are not responsible for Shadow's escape. Stone brings the three into a giant mechanical crab and brings him to who has fallen into a junk food dysfunction since his last defeat. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckle reluctantly agrees to an alliance with Owl and Stone after Sonic gives Eggman one of his quills. Shadow goes to the old gun facility. He remains about his time and Maria, whom he developed a friendship with Shadows and found by his creator just as Sonic and the other arrives. All of them expect Ao are sabotaged, and Ao comes face to face for the first time with his grandfather. Garandao is related to have a member of his family alive. The Robotic and Shadow tie up Sonic, Tails, and Knuckle, and Gallaudet explain that he needs a second key card to activate the Eclipse Cannon, a super weapon hidden underneath Gun headquarters that is powered by chaos energy and is capable of global destruction. The villains leave Team Sonic as they activate a black hole that sucks up the whole facility after Shadow take the key card they already had. The two manage to grab a ring and open a portal to get them out of there. Evo and Karen start to spend time together in a virtual simulation to catch up on lost time. This causes Stone to feel left out and neglected by the man he has always been loyal to. The three return to Tom and Maddie for help. They travel to London to Con headquarters, and since that is Gallant and Shadow's primary target for the Escall cannon, Tom and Mary use Source to disuse themselves as Rachel and Randall to make their way inside. They insert a drive that allows Tails to hack into the system and disable an energy seal so Sonic can enter. When they find the room with the key card, they find that AO and Gallant have already made their way inside with their own super source. Before they can get to it, the key card, Rockwell finds them and manipulates the gravity in the room before other agents storm the place. Nickel bursts in to save them, but he smashes the gravity keypad and causes everyone to either float or get stuck to the ground. Rockwell eventually gets the key card and gets away, but Tom disguises himself as Commander Walter to trick Rockwell into giving him the key card. Shadow sees Tom in disuse and punches who he thinks in Walter in retaliation. Tom is knocked out and Sonic runs to his side in a panic, which causes Shadow to remember his final moments with Maria. He gets away just as Maddie rushes to Tom's side. He is taken to the hospital and Sonic becomes Henry to the pad of seeking revenge against Shadow. He tells Knuckle to tell him where the Master Emerald is so he can become supersonic again, but Knuckle refuses since he was sworn to keep it guarded for being too powerful. Tails tries to talk them down, but Nickel relented and tells Sonic that it is being kept by weight. Sonic goes to him and takes the emerald. The villains raises the Escalon from the river Themis and take it high into space. However, Ao is horrified to learn that Geralt doesn't plan to dominate the Earth, but to destroy it. Another flashback reveals that Gun Agent storms the facility to kill Shadow, but a stray bullet causes the explosion that killed Maria. This drove Geralt and Shadow to revenge against all of humanity. Supersonic then flies at high speeds, crashing through the facility and fighting Shadow. The two Hedgehog took it out after crashing into a field, but Shadow taunts Sonic about abandoning his friends and family for revenge. Sonic responds by uppercutting Shadow all the way to the moon. Before Sonic can deliver the fatal blow, he holds back and realizes that this is not who he is. He and Shadow expresses their pain over the ones they lost, Maria and Longclaw, but Sonic tells him that revenge will not fix things. They resolves to work together and save the bird. Elbow turns on Geralt after he admits that he never viewed A.O. the same way he did with Maria. Geralt responds by trying to drop A.O. to his death, but he raises from a ring portal with Tails and Knuckle and Evo Unisonic Supercharge Kill to P. Geralt in the butt, sending him flying into the cause, energy field and empiricizing him. Tails and Knuckle then try to redeck the Escall cannon trajectory, while Sonic and Shadowpath, powered by the cause, emeralds hold the blast off. They succeed in diverting it away from the Earth, but end up hitting the moon. Sonic starts to fall to Earth unconsciously, and when Tails tries to save him, he loses consciousness too, but Knuckles end up saving them both. Sonic apologized to his friends for aborting them the way he did, but Tails and Knee forgive him. The Escalese cannon core is about to overload. A.O. resolves to use his final moments with Shadow to get the cannon away from Earth. Avo sends out one last frame to Earth to reach Stone, who sees it from London. Ava thanks him for remaining loyal and being his only friend. Shadow pushes the cannon away from Earth before it is obliterated. Storm bids Eggman farewell. The heroes return to Green Hill with Tom recovering from his injuries. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckle then proceeds to race again to see which of them is truly the best. Sonic ends up running all the way to a park in New York. He is then confronted by Metal Sonic. The Hedgehog takes it on before it can strike him, but then a whole army of Metal Sonic shows up. They are awakened out by Jet, another Hedgehog Amos. Post-credited scene is Shadow is shown to have survived the explosion and picks up one of his inhabitor rings. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, released in 2024, has carried Ben Sigbar's past 2 career-altering box office milestone. After premiering with a hefty $60 million to make first place at the box office the weekend before Christmas, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has kept up the momentum on its way to becoming one of the biggest hits of 2024. The film has put together $216 million domestically and $23 million in international markets for a worldwide total of $419 million. This $216 million domestically and $23 million in foreign markets is enough to help lift actor Ben Seegers, who placed the lead role of the Blue Speedstress past the $1 billion mark for his carrier for both KTs. Seeger's domestic carrier box office total stands at $119 billion, with an international total of $117 billion for a global cumulative haul setting comfortably at $229 billion. Sonic 3 is also the highest-grossing movie in his career. Ben Squad has the Sonic franchise to thanks for the lion's share of his carrier box office rankings. The Sonic films occupy the top 3 sports on his carrier's domestic box office, earning with Sonic 3 at $216 billion, Sonic 2 at $190 million, and Sonic 1 at $146 million. A small role as being assistants in The Other Guys. The action comedy starring Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg is also one of the highest-grossing movies of his career, with over $119 million from domestic markets. Seek's role as Benno Mimir in the Low movie, to the second part 2019, and Mark in DC League of Super Pits have also helped his box office total reach new heights. The film grossed $15 million and $93 million respectively at the domestic box office. What other role does Ben Sequarters have coming up? Ben Sequart will next reunite with his Sonic co-star James Marsden on Mike and Nick and Alice. the upcoming comedy that also stars Vince Wangum and Isa Gonzalez. He is also attached to an upcoming comedy project with C. Rogen and Adam McKay, but few details are shown at this time. Sigwars is also expected to reprise his role as the Blue Speedster in Sonic the Hedgehog 4, which is confirmed to be an actor development, but does not yet have an official release date. Aside from Sonic, Seegers will always be known for his role as Gene Rulo in the popular sitcom Parks and Recreation. Sonic the 3 is still playing in most theaters everywhere. Sonic 3 breaks box office record and Sonic 4 announcement. Saga's Sammy Holds Inc. announced that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 surprises $425 million in global box office revenue, breaking the records of his predecessors. The film's success contribute to the franchise total gross exceeding $1 billion worldwide. Paramount Pictures has scheduled the release of Sonic the Hedgehog 4 for March 19, 2027, indicating continued momentum for the series. The latest film debated strongly in multiple international markets, highlighting its global appeal and reinforcing Saga's position in the film industry. Saga Sami Holding Inc. is a prominent player in the entertainment industry, known for its video games, secular art machines, and amusement facilities. The AON company focusing on delivering engaging entertainment experience tranche, including the Sonic the Hedgehog series, which has seen significant success as a Hollywood film adaptation. Sonic 3 2024 officially becomes highest-grossing movie in franchise after reaching huge global milestone. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has officially become the highest-grossing film in the beloved video game franchise. Its third installment sees Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles teaming up once more to take on Shadow the Hedgehog, a powerful new adversary. After Shadow proves too strong to defeat alone, Sonic is forced to form an uneasy alliance with Dr. Everontic to spark Shadow's revenge against the planet. The Sonic the Hedgehog 3 cast features the return of Ben Situar's Address, Alba and Jim Carrey, with the exciting addition of Keanu Reeves as the enigmatic Shadow. According to the numbers, Sonic 3 has crossed the $400 million mark, earning $419.9 worldwide and surpassing its predecessor's $45 million total box office haul, released the weekend before. Christmas to rave reviews and a strong audience reception, Sonic 3 successfully built upon its action-packed narrative and lovable characters established in the first two Sonic movies. What Sonic 3 box office success means. Sonic the Hedgehog 3's box office dream reflect a powerful combination of factors, including a well-timed release, a stellar cost, and the success of his predecessors, all of which have propelled it to the top of the Sonic franchise. The broader resurgence of video game adaptation driven by box office journals like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which set a domestic record for video game films, with $574 million in 2023. Helped people and special for the Blue Board's latest adventure as the gender gains a newfound prominence in Hollywood. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 worldwide box office $419 million. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 released in 2023 $45 million box office. Sonic the Hedgehog 1 worldwide box office is $319 million. In 2024, Movies As I Am Younger audience nominated the domestic box office with half of the top 10 crossing. Films rated PG-4, of which rank in the top 5. This wave of family-friendly hits provided an ideal climb for Sonic 3 to thrive. Review for Sonic 3 have also noted how the film's Ravatilos Sonic journey as a leader by introducing a thrilling new villain and developing the emotional core of the story, making it a satisfying cantation for fans and newcomers alike. Our take on Sonic 3's record-breaking achievement. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 reoffends video game adaptation as a legitimate force in Hollywood, with its mix of thrilling action, heart-filled moments, and clever nostalgia. Jeff Furr's third installment to the franchise expertly craft a blockbuster follow-up that both delights fans and draws in new audience, a record-breaking success. Moment Sonic legacy as a beloved cultural icon, particularly among families with Sonic 4 already in development. Riding this waves of momentum, the Blue Block cinematic journey shows no sign of slowing down. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 continues momentum by passing new domestic box office milestone. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has passed yet another domestic box office milestone, released on December 20th. The prequel has done well in the past 4 weeks. Sonic 3 has received strong reviews, overall even becoming the highest-rated film in the franchise according to Rotten Tomatoes. The franchise film features a leading cast including Ben Sequars, Idris Elba, Jim Carrey, and Keanu Reeves. After the events of this film, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is already confirmed to be in the works. Pre-box office mojo, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has now crossed an important toast box office milestone. The movie is now in the top 10 highest-crossing 2024 release at the domestic box office, taking the number 9 slot. It passed Kung Fu Panda 4 and God's Kong: The New Empire in order to get this spot. The film still tails behind the number 8 spot, Twisters, by a fair margin, as Sonic 3 has crossed $400 million domestically compared to Twisters' $267 million. What this means for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. This is not the only box office feat the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has achieved recently. Last week, the film also became the highest-grossing movie of the Sonic franchise in terms of domestic box office numbers. The next HX franchise is Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which now tails Sonic 3 by almost $14 million. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has yet to beat out its predecessor at the worldwide box office. However, as the second film crossed $45 million worldwide, and the 2024 movie is only at $385 million worldwide. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has also yet to break into the top 10 highest, crossing 2024 release at the worldwide box office, but it is in the top 15 on a worldwide scale. Sonic 3 actually comes in right above Twisters, but Fast Blue movies, such as Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and Bad Boys Ride or Die, to break into the global to top 10, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 will still need to make over $19 million worldwide, which is a half-table, still possible sum, depending on the extent of its international rollout. Our take on Sonic the Hedgehog 3's box office milestone. Sonic the Hedgehog 3's recent box office milestone proves that 2024 was a particularly strong year for kid and family-oriented films. Half of the top 10 films at the domestic box office are rated PG, with 4 of these even making it into the top 5. Kid-friendly films always have an age at the box office, but the 2024 track record is especially impressive in this regard. Box office Sonic 3 speeds to $60 million debit. Mufasa: The Lion King gets trampled with $35 million. Paramount third Sonic adventure has opened at number 1 with $60 million from 3,761 North American theaters. Monday's final number was below Sunday's estimate of $62 million. Blasted by positive reviews and strong audience scores through the film, still landed on the higher end of initial expectations of $55 million to $60 million and looks to remain a holiday hit throughout the new year. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was tracking for a trilogy low start, but instead opened above the original 2020 Sonic the Hedgehog 58 million in February and just below the 2022 sequel, a series best $72 million in March. As we have seen this franchise audience grow, we saw a window in the marketplace in December where we thought we could stand out, says Paramount President of Domestic Distribution Chris Erickson. We have been able to accomplish that. Sonic is going to dominate throughout the holiday. Disney The Lion King pupil Mufasa trotted behind in second place with $35 million from $4,100 Sandmass, falling way behind pre-release expectation of $50 million. It's a terrible start for a tentpole that cost about $200 million to produce and roughly $100 million to promote across the globe. Despite mixed reviews, the film has several potential saving grays, including a solid grade on Sanma score from audience and the reality that the summer release are not known to deliver robust habits. But if word of mouth is favorable, the film can enjoy staying power into January and beyond. That was true of last year's Timbuti-calmed lead Priyanka, for example, which notched $39 million to start and topped out with $218 million in North America and $634 million worldwide. Mufasa has a better chance of breaking out overseas, although the family-friendly films also missed projection at the international box office, earning $87 million for a global start of $122 million. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which cost $122 million and doesn't open at the international box office until Christmas. Jeff Polar returned to Dr. the Threelee with Pensback to voice the title character, a speedy blue creature with a neck for busting baddies, and Jim Carrey reprising his role as Sonic for Dr. Ferber. Bantic, a mad scientist obsessed with achieving world domination. The story picks up with Sonic and Palest and Nickel on a mission to stop a mysterious new adversary, Shadow the Hedgehog. The fame landing on a grade on Sanma score and an 86% average on Rotten Tomatoes. Sonic has commented itself as a promising new film franchise for Panama, with the first two movies generating a combined $725 million at the global box office while driving more than $180 million in consumer spending from home entertainment rentals and digital perishes. Their property, based on the popular Saga video game series, also inspired a Paramount Plus spin-off series Knuckle, which debuted earlier this year. Meanwhile, a fourth movie is already in development for 2027. Over the last 5 years, Sonic has grown into a coverted five-garden movie. Audience includes younger and older females, younger and old males and families, says David Cross, who runs the movie consultant, film franchise, entertainment research. The series is going everything right. Mufasa could rebound over the holiday, or it may be latest indicating that audience are tiring of Disney's live-action adaptations of animated classic, Retreat of Jungle Book, The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin were huge commercial hits, while Mullen Dumbo and the title Mermaid either felt it or fell short of expectation in theaters. Disney has two more remakes set for 2025, Snow White in March and Lulu and Stitch in May, as well as live-action takes on Mana and Tangled in the works. Barry Jenkins, the Oscar-winning filmmaker of Moonlight and If Bill Stick Could Talk Mufasa, with features music by Lin-Manuel Miranda and the voice cast of Aaron Peter and Kelvin Harrison, Jar as Mufasa, and Scar Darnold Glover, Seth Rogenbelly, Aicher Bian, Nos Carter, Metz Melson, and Blue Abbey Carter, it served as a prequel to director Jon Favreau's 2019 photorealistic The Lion King remake, which also jed mixed reviews, but delivered a stunning $119 million debit over the summer, and eventually generated a mighty $1,066 billion at the global box office. Audience like the movie and family animation has gone excellent holding stereos. The story is not finished, as this is a prequel story, and prequels start slower. Movie theater honor hope that's the case, because overall domestic ticket sales remain 4.3% behind 2023 and 23% behind 2019. According to ComScore, Christmas season is looking less festive than chill, with adult squeezing offering like Seder and Biopic are complete unknown. The focus features Nasperto remake and A24 AOTC thriller Baby Girl as the newcomers on the calendar for December 25th. Exhibitors usually relay on all audience for such AR The Way of Water or Spider-Man No Way Home to keep multiplexes packed through some of the busiest movie gang days of the year. This year, most of those 4-quadrant films, including Universal Big Disney Mon 2 and Paramount's Gladiator 2, were released around Thanksgiving. All three look to keep trying audience through Christmas time. Vic floated to third place with $13.5 million from 3,296 venue. The big-budget movie musical has generated $383 million domestically and $571 million globally after 5 weekends of release. It landed ever so slightly ahead of Monet, which added $13.1 million from $3,600 in its 4th weekend on the big screen. The Polynesian Minion Adventure has crossed $359 million in North America and mimicked $790 million worldwide to date. It purrs to become Disney's 3rd movie to cross $1 billion this year. Box office Sonic the Hedgehog 3 stays ahead of Mufasa, crosses $100 million in North America. The face-off between Fury Mammals rakes and the holiday box office, with Paramount Sonic the Hedgehog 3 continuing to lead domestic charts. The video game Inspired earned another $12.6 million on Friday, to boost its North America tally to $112 million. After an underwhelming opening behind Sonic the Hedgehog 3 last weekend, Mufasa the Lion King sailed ahead of Sonic 3 to lead charts over Christmas. It moved back to second on Friday, earning another $12 million. It will look to cross the $100 million domestic mark before the end of the weekend, and is hoping to keep in momentum through the new year at a $200 million production budget. The Barry Jenkins director features needle-lasting staying power domestically and internationally for Disney to end the years on a high note. Paramount's Sonic the Hedgehog 3 shows no sign of slowing down the new adaptation of the enduring saga. Video game franchise has crossed $100 million in North America in its first 8 days of release. It's been a strong pace for the sequel, which cost $122 million to produce and already has a value up in the works. And now, after Sonic launch in most international territories on Christmas Day, the Hedgehog and Mufasa are competing for children and family audience all around the globe. Third goes to focus feature Nesbarato after opening on Christmas. The Robert X. helmed remake of FW Vampire Classic added another $7 million on Friday and is projected to get to $39 million throughout the 5-day frame. It's starting out to be a landmark opening for Focus Features, and all the better since Nesbarato was produced for $50 million and a steeper than usual figure for the banner. As a submental installment, the period horror film has grown strong reviews and turned itself into the gender events of the season. Search and Light Paramount also spent big on A Complete Unknown, which cost $60 million to $70 million to produce. The Jamosi Climate lead Bob Dylan biopic added another $3.8 million on Friday and looks to cross $23 million throughout the 5-day frame. It's a substantial start for a period drama through A Complete Unknown, needs to leverage award boss and positive reviews for a successful run in theaters. Also, opening the weekend, A24's office affair thriller, Baby Girl, starring Nicole Kidman, earned $1.3 million on Friday. Further down the top 10, Amazon MGM's Box Crowd, Plates the Fire Inside Tractor by Rachel Morrison, added 65 on Friday. Path features stabbed to strong reviews during the Fall Film Festival season. Rounding out the top 5, Universal Vic swept up another $6.8 million on Friday. Now armed with sing-along screening in select locations, the adaptation of the Broadway musical crossed $400 million domestic a few days ago and stands at the third highest crossing North American release of the year. Meanwhile, Disney Moan Toad sailed to another $6.3 million Friday after reaching $375 million domestically earlier this week. The $400 million milestone is just on the horizon. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 reviews. After the Paramount logo, the or star replaced by gold rings flying toward the iconic mountain and the Sega indent, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, rather ironically excused to a large credit for Neil Mortis Production Company, original film. It not very often a production banner throws an international shade on the film that follows, but there is very little that is novel in Sonic 3's subsequent 109 minutes. Director Jeff Furr's inoffensive, all-too-familiar third adventure for the Blue Blur is probably the pick of the bunch, but this is still the kind of low-hanging fruit, endless quiping, bland, moralizing dance routines matted out by every box-standard animated kids flick since the turn of the century. The big new element here is the introduction of vengeful villain Shadow the Hedgehog, Vice by Keanu Reeves, unsurprisingly channeling John Wick rather than Deadloon. Teased in a sitting at the end of Sonic 2 Shadow is a black-hearted agent of chaos, Thicken, Nigel Coric, and Quills, whose escapes in creation after 50 years to wreak havoc on protectors of Earthgun, Guardian units of National alongside Santos, Geralt, romantic Jim Carrey. Soon, Sonic and his late Estes, the Fox and Knuckle, the Agenda are dispatched to manage the meme, only to discover they need to team up with Iorantic, the grandson of Geralt, and the series' big bad dead after the second film to save the day. The word that comes to mind when describing the Sega saga is scattershot. From the comedy, a fart cake here, a B. Arthur joke there to the needle drops, the traveling wild brush, the prodigy, the Beach Boys together at least to the action, a bike chase in Tokyo, shenanigans over London landmarks. Everything has a let's hope this sticks quality. This Habsurt approach extends to the thematic materials you can choose from, a listen to your heart or trust your friends, or don't let pain change you or always make the right choice, but none of them are possibly arced or deeply felt. Key emotional bone age are in throwaway montages, even on its own terms. Little feels aren't, or authentic. On the plus side, Sonic 3 has more narrative focus and urgency than Sonic 2. And there are some generally funny moments. A Protal Novels, a killer Green Lantern cake, and the punchy popularity of Elbas Variard in theater get some laughs. The MVP of the first two films carried DS down the physical comedy in both his roles, amping up ping to hit and miss effect for all the actors' cunning and the film's visual busyness. Few image pops are low memory, perhaps what's needed in an ART Vision. The campaign for ballot or Sonic the Hedgehog 4 starts. Here, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. You have to give it up to the Sonic Hedgehog film team. They made something out of what little they had to work with regarding the first 2 installments, as who can blame them? They were based on the regular Sega Genesis game, which only had the basic concept of Hedgehog Go Fast. Defeat Dude, who made reboards during Sonic the Hedgehog Tour's post-Reddit scene. They teased they were jumping ahead a few My Line games and adapting the Dreamcast or GameCube, if you prefer the battle spot. Sonic Adventure Sonic the Hedgehog 3 reviewed 2 times that Jim Carrey in his 3rd movie. You cannot let your pain change who you are. James Marsden Tom says to Sonic the Hedgehog early on in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, because what else would this adaptation of the classic Soccer video game series be about other than trauma, going super fast, collecting rings, beating Dr. Eggman? Nope. This movie is going to be about how pain shapes you, and in case it will not clear to the audience the first time it was delivered, the line is repeated letter, as are multiples 1 about making the right choice. I could not help but feel I had made all the wrong points that lead me to reviewing Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Thankfully, this is not the type of truly terrible video game adaptation that has been the norm for so many years. From the bizarre nons of 1993 Super Mario Bros. To the inept laziness of 1924 Borderlands. But that's also not to say Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is actually good either. This 3rd movie ends up somewhere in the middle, making it less than essential viewing for anyone over the age of 10 who didn't grow up with a Genesis or a Dreamcast in the house. We were an Ent family. It will please kids and Saga divorce well enough, but it's likely to leave other spot wishing the movie would move so fast. And its Blue Hero does, so they can do literally anything else. What is Sonic the Hedgehog 3 about? Sonic the Hedgehog 3 begins on Paris Island in Tokyo Bay, Japan, where a mysterious hedgehog breaks out and wreaks havoc in the way that only a hedgehog played by the dude that stared at John Wick and Neoen, Shadow voiced by Keanu Reeves, is leaving a path of destruction through Tokyo. And Sonic the Hedgehog voiced by Ben Segar, Tails the Fox voiced by Colleen and Knuckle, the Akenda voiced by Addis Elba are called in to help, but even together they are no match for Shadow, who has plenty of power and plenty of pain from a death in his past. Surprisingly, the evil Dr. Riontic might be the only one who can help Sonic defeat his new enemy. But can he be trusted? With even more action sequence than it predesters, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 feels like it's aiming for bigger things, sending the Blue Bar and his friends both around the world and beyond it. From Green Hill, Montana to Tokyo and London and even into space, the fate of the Earth lies in the animated hands. The series seems to follow the model of Fast and Furious franchise, getting more epic with each new installments and turning enemies into allies. As Knuckle and even Dr. Robotic are brought into the fold beyond the emphasis on speed, both franchises are also all about family, especially as Dr. Robotnik family gets one of his own with the introduction of his grandfather. Gerald Robotic, who is also played by Carrey, is also evil, maybe even more so, than his grandson. The actor playing Dr. Robotic continues to carry the series. Gary remains the best part of this franchise with his wild faces and many client delivery. Seward's might wise the Ionomous speedster, but Carrey is the real star. Other than money, I cannot quite figure out why those films exist. But I cannot be too mad at anything that gives Carrey a chance to be this silly in movies made for kids, especially when he gets to play two characters in this third film and mugged twice as much. Yet for all the silliness Gary brings, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 gets a bit dark at times. Shadow is fueled by a desire to avenge the death of a young friend, and it feels a bit off when paired with Gary's antics, as well as the one-liner from Seek Waters and the group Homer from Elbus Nakel. Plot and character motivation have never really been the series' strength, but so much and so little happened in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and the story is certainly not the draw here. There are emeralds and keys and a dance sequence, because why not? Where is James Marison? And even more importantly, where is Natasha Root Will? But unfortunately, with the double carry, the triple to space, and everything else, there's a less room for the more human heartfelt part of the story that were present in early movies, which means less myrrh, and have gotten less screen time with each installment, which means that the invadable Sonic the Hedgehog 4, which is this in the Requat mid-Reddit sequence with the character I had to Google, will just have the adoptive hedgehog present waving from the side of the road, while Sonic races by relegated to an Easter egg. Even in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, we only got cameos from Adam Pilley and Natasha Ruthfield, who were both highlights of the earlier movies and being a delightfully different comic energy that either Kathy or Marin Sonic the Hedgehog 3. A delightful change-up. I did not expect much from Sonic the Hedgehog 3. The first movie was a nice little diversion from Coit, but the sequel was quite irritating, and with the same director and writer back for another go-round, I figured we were in for another round of more of the same. Fortunately for all of us, I was wrong. The three goals successfully reigns in the pop culture reference and Jim Carr's weakenest just enough, while also giving us a serious villain for the first time with Ghost Shadow. And the result is that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 works better for audience for all ages than its predecessors, which were more secretly aimed at children. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the dream of the 90s, is live in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, with Jim Carrey giving not one but two gleefully drank performance that hearken to his rubber-faced comedy greatness of 3 decades ago. Do you miss the slapstick antics of Dumb and Dumper? Here you get romantic and romantic. Carrey reprises his malevolent mastermind role from the previous 2 Sonic movies, while also playing Jerryland Romantic, Dr. Ever Romantic's equally evil grandfather. Both are verbose and elaborately mistute, and the moment these long-lost relatives find each other features a fourth wall break that surpasses anything that occur in his beast, Mufasa, the Lion King in theory. We are here for Sonic W once again with fast-paced swaggers and sauce by Ben. Schwartz, but he keeps getting upstage by his co-star in his zippy third installment from Dr. Jazz Fuller. Beside Gary, there's a Canner Race, providing his signature quiet intensity to the role of Shadow. Imagine John Wick as a superpowered diabolical gun, Space Hedgehog, and you will get an idea of the seriousness with which Keanu approaches the assignment war. All of this is to say that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is way better than it was right to be as a video game adaptation, as a threequel, as a family-friendly movie coming out on the cops of Christmas. I'm not a fan of the Saga video game, as in I have never played it before in my entire life, but that's not a requirement to have a good time here. Sonic 3 takes a little while to get going, and it's a super corny off the top, and the script from returning writer P. Jesse and Josh Miller and Josh Whittington features with too many adults and insults and wage and pop culture reference, but for a lot of people that will be a feature and not a bug. It's just who Sonic is. Still, once Gary's frantic performance kick into gear, he gets to take his movie to incredibly strange place, ensuring that it will probably work for the adults in the audience as well as the little kids who drag them there. At the film start, the red-strapped Shadow breaks out of Prison Island, where he's been held for the past 50 years, seeking revenge. Sonic Knuckle and the integrally coffee address El Ela on the Peggy Tales have been enjoying a quiet life in small-town Green Hills, Montana, with Tom and his wife Maddie. Aside from Carrey's characters, the human brains are less necessary than ever this time. But the Fury space creatures must trash into action to stop this formidable few. And the former rivals realize the only way to do that is to work together. This entails going after the muckfiness of muck fans, which the rebonding also are seeking to fuel their giganta weapon of doom. It will all extremely silly until unexpectedly actual stakes emerge. The visual effects are impressively shameless for the most part in this live-action animation habitat. Cinematographer Brandon Trust gives everything from fast chest to dance numbers a colorful sheen befitting the lovely material. He also recently shot Marius Heller's Night Pitch, How That for Range and composer Tom Holkerberg, better known as Jungie XL, return with a score that's knowingly melodramatic to punctuate all this adventure. Make sure you stay all the way through the credit for a couple of teaser for what's to come. Based on the guest fan sequel from several people at a recent press screening, it could be out of this world. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 review. Jim Carrey supplies love and energy for Hedgehog 3. A third Sonic film rose off the production line with Romer Slet's inevitability and no little excitement among its core early teen fan base. The Marvel Cinematic Universe could take a lesson or two in how to keep the audience on site. The careful over Sonic's widely designed teeth seems a long time ago, and if Jim Carrey is really only in it for the money, he certainly gives his double role here some major value. And while no one could deny the cash grab fan service underpinning to the entire project, where it's actually a not unenjoyable experience even if you are someone on whom the intricacies of early game narrative are lost. So this Sonic Rewards takes the time. Hallowed third installment approached by foregrounding a dark version of Sonic. In fact, near Andal Hedgehog Shadow distinguished from our hero by his black and red coloring. At the start of proceedings, Shadow escaped from a containment unit where he is being held for various convoluted reasons, and Sonic, along with his agenda and Fox sidekick, is called in to deal with him. Pretty soon, for further convoluted reason, they briefly find themselves fighting alongside a robotic before, and I don't think this is a major spoiler. An eating robotic Grand Prix is an abandoned military base. Then it starts getting complicated. Having a rich fuse of Blightness character or contramatic incident to draw on from more than 3 decades of game means that this film is frankly groaning at the scenes with switchback story moments, seemingly random flashbacks, and bizarre sidewaysly. It will all held together just about by a kind of clearance energy that creates its own momentum. The human elements are a bit hit and miss. The big-name visor from Keanu Reeves and Addis Selba as Shadow and Knuckle, respectively, are not knocking anyone's socks off. And James Marsden and Tika Sumpter as Sonic adopted family are a chemistry-free zone looking like they met for the first time second before the cameras start rolling. Carrey Teeth is a very good value, getting off a couple of lines that might actually make grounds up and generally putting himself about to decent effect. Without him, the film could have been a lot worse. Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Got to go see it again. Ever since the Sonic Hedgehog 2 post-Reddit scene, I was going feral with excitement for the third film. I tempered my expectation. Of course, because the first two made it clear that they are trying to be 1-1, retelling of the games. So I went in expecting a few notes to Sonic Adventure 2, but no short remake of it. This Attitudes was indeed the right one, as, from start to finish, I was enormous with the story. It told its larger-than-life characters, and even how it's handled some of the more sober moments of Sonic the Hedgehog's Matthews. Cano Ribas, as Shadow the Hedgehog, is an inspired choice that carried this film for me. I adore the character of Shadows. He is one of my favorites, and as much as I loved Kano, he was not going to be safe from my criticism if he backed this up. Low end, and it behold. He crashed it. While it felt like a few lights flat here and there, it was evidently clear he had done his homework. The love and care that went into Shadow's character for the film was astounding, from emotional scene where he reflects on his tragic past to the sheer rage emanating from him as he battled Gun Soldier in the present. Sonic is also handled well as he adapts to his new role as a leader of Team Sonic. His character mirrors Shadow in the sense he was met with tragedy, but found a family out of it where his Shadow never did. So the clash in their ideologies really shines throughout the film. The rest of the cast does a fantastic job too, with another special shout-out to Jim Carrey, who plays not one but two robotic, as he says in the trailer. Double your villain, double your fun. And that's by no means an X-regation. Geralt Robotic is as weaky and unhanged as I.O., and at first I didn't vibe with it, but you quickly see there's something deeper and darker than A.O. has ever been excluded on his own. Maria Romantic is also introduced, and while she is used, surprisingly, I can only place Ala Brani portrayal of the character Maria's love for Shadow and importance in his story is not undermined by any means, and I am more than happy with the way it was handled. Something that really surprised me with this film was the action. The battles were on another level, and I'd say this is possibly the closest we have been to a live-action Dragon Ball Z film. It was high-speed cherry beautifully and demonstrated the sheer power of this character perfectively. I was really impressed. As for the rest of the film, especially the writing, overall story, and soundtrack, I honestly could not complain so far. The film have done a good job of accommodating those who are not as familiar with the Sonic word, by rewarding those who are expert with little NS here and there to the Blue Bloods' long history. The reference were fun, but they will not alienate those who have not played the games, and there are certain story bits that made me very excited for what's to come in future films. Something I really want to highlight, Thraw, is it feels like they finally struck a perfect balance between the Sonic character and human characters, giving the humans actual role to play that didn't feel omniscious or intrusive. Anyone who watched Sonic the Hedgehog 2 will no doubt remember the infamous Rachel's Fing subplot, and, thankfully, there's none of that in this film. The focus is exactly where it should be. Homer is obviously subjective, and while I had a few good laughs, there were a few jokes that did not land for me, but that's not a big deal. Finally, the soundtrack slaps. That's all I have to say about that. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was amazing. It really is the best film of the trilogy by far. Yet, I am still confident the next film could be even better if they keep this momentum up. It's hard to believe that we started from a shorty horrific design for a live-action Sonic the Hedgehog and somehow ended up here. It's honestly surreal. It's a must-see for any Sonic fan and cannot wait to see what other fan like myself make of it. And don't forget to stick around for the post-credit scene. Sonic Hedgehog is generating widely momentum, a big part of Shadow's history. How did the character of Shadow 1, who has been butchered and misunderstood for years, find his way onto the front cover of one of 2024? Biggest release. It was lovely to revisit Sonic Generation and see some of the changes made to its label and dialogue. After all, it's one of my favorite Sonic games. But Shadow Generation was what I was there for, and my God, it didn't disappoint. Every level was a banger. Arguably some of the best we have seen from a modern Sonic Little so far, and the addition of Shadow's chaos and doom powers did well to distinguish his playstyle from Sonic's. Space cloning arc rail cannon, sunset highlights all. Fantastic that. It was only when I got to Cause Island that I realized something was missing. Cause Island is an area in Sonic Frontier again. Shadowhead, no part in Sunset Height, is also a bit of a bad addition, since Sonic Forces is set after Sonic Generations bought crate levels, but not ones I had have expected to appear in the lineup. It made me realize the game had omitted one of the biggest part of Shadow's history stages, from a spin of Shadow, the Hedgehog 2005. Though it was not forgotten about completely. After all, Black Dome make his return as the villain. Does Sonic Team consider them to be bad levels, or did Shadow the Hedgehog underperform that badly they thought no one would notice? Who knows? But personally, I think they missed a trick, not including at least one of them. You could kind of arc Shadow the Hedgehog first mission. West Polish makes a turn as, when Black Tomb is warping the stages, there are Skypers present, but it feels like more of an extensive statical highway than a different stage entirely, and it's never named dropped. While I would not consider Shatter the Hedgehog to have a peak level design, there are quite a few that I had at least considered to be a good honorary play, and fit the overall theme of Shadow traveling Thraw's past. Gallipic Cannon, Cryptic Castle, Circus Paws, even Lava Shelter are decent level from the game that could have made a comeback. I am not saying Chaos Island is a bad level and needs placement from it, but his inclusion feel better compared to the rest of the selection. It feels safe to assume the Sonic Forces and Sonic Frontier level were chosen because they are simply games that came out after Sonic Generations. So, in a way, they had to be included. But even so, there's an argument to be made that should have been bonus level in Sonic part of the game rather than shoved into Shadows. We know perhaps the success of Sonic X Shadow Generation will push Sega into giving Shadow his own game separated from the blue blur. Maybe then we'll get to revisit some of the location from Shadow the Hedgehog. Perhaps thaw a remake. Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Whatever some Paramount picture paid to Jim Carew out of supposed retirement, it was worth a penny because the third Sonic the Hedgehog movie is not nearly as much of Ning Chaos of a family film as the two. The rubber-limp funny man has too quite upfront about his financial motive for playing Dr. Robotics. The megalomanial made scientist with the X-rated paintbrush mustache, the stock peel of deadly electronics, and the hemi grudge against speedy space. Mammals! But just because this is a paycheck gig for Carrey doesn't mean he phones it in. Quite to the contrary, the man behind the mask streak his recalling role as the caping, blow-biting nemesis for Sonic the Hedgehog as lessons to Mark, like he has not since the heyday of the Genesis. Every time the camera finds Gary in the Sonic movies, he is doing some tirelessness sketch dancing with dorky aplomb, snurging his face into an expressive no other human has ever thought to make. Tossing off green chain, insert asides to nobody. In Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Gary has finally found a scene partner who can match his freak. It's Jim Gary. One of his latest sequel is that it cost the actor in a dual role, allowing him to play a returning robotic, and his distance a strange relative. Watching the comedy legend in these movies already fit like witnesses, a one-man show crammed into the margins of an expensive all-ages comedy, which is more true than not when half the other characters on screen are digitally generated. But there are scratches in Sonic 3. Were it really in, just Carrey up there acting out both sides of a lunatic family reunion, and as it turns about, two of him are better than one. Up until now, Cars Harley Takes on the Eggman was not just the highlight, but also the saving grace of this video game adaptation. The first Sonic the Hedgehog was popular. Why, you have to wonder, did diehards worm to a movie that plucked their favorite blooper out of a 16-big kingdom of speed and color in favor of a drab buddy comedy with jams? Moron Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was a minor improvement, mostly by virtue of featuring favor scene of Saga's rest speed demon Plenty in the passenger seat of an empering automobile. But it still leaned heavily on hacky pop culture references and filer subplot for the wholesome human characters. Thankfully, third time is the charm for the franchise, which finally hits its stride with a more fleet adventure for Team Sonic. Beside the buck-eyed romantic, the people in these movies don't hold much interest. Part 3 further minimized the screen time of the Hawk's adoptive parents, Token Tony Storm and Maddie, even as the costless expands to include cameo length, part of Christ Rider, A Lonely Islander, and Bob for Mad Men, with favorite destination weddings, and heart-to-hearts about Tom Carr's aspirations on The Doctor the Script by Pat G. Josh Miller and Josh Weddington, can keep the focus strain on our colorful alien manager, plucky vice-cracking Hedgehog, Sonic brightly Allerscent, flying foxtails, and irony immunes. Agenta Knuckle played by Adesela, whose straight-faced bruiser routine owns a clear depth of vocal and temperament influence to Dex the Destroyer. The plot resolves around the introduction of fan-favorite Shadow, who is like an angsty mirror image of Sonic, a proning anti-hero Hedgehog. It feeds a little silly tapping those word who escapes from ears of commitment, containment, electricity in his eyes, and revenge against humanity on his brain. Vised in his usual graft, Zen Monoto by Conor Ravis. The character has a tortured backstory. Returning director Jeff Furr lays it out through sloppy flashback that a supply shadow with formative, motivating, even vinily waking loss. If that seems like an overly serious direction of a Sonic the Hedgehog movie to take, since someone did that spiky head finger-wagging mascot have to deliver a monologue about grief and revenge, trust that a little melodrama is preferable to the trend-chasing flossing jokes that mark his big screen debut. So, speaking of which, this third movie inches further away from the unsolicited tree ducks of the original and closer to the geeky adventure plotting of a Saturday morning cartoon, a much better fit for the character. And not just because Sonic and friends have raced across the landscape before seeing the little guy really run, as in a pleasingly animated early chase down the streets up the skyscraper of Tokyo, is a reminder that kinetic eye candy is what defines the best Sonic games. Part 3 also has more conceptual imagination that is predesters. It light riffed on Moon, Cracker, and Mission Impossible. Key movies and anime, the dialogue is a less heartening mix of Quippe's life lessons and breathy declaration of conflicts, like this ends now in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Carrey has finally found a scene partner who can match his freak. It's Jim Carrey. At its current rate of unlikely improvement, the Sonic series should turn out a Toy Story 2 grade masterpiece in, maybe 5 years. For now, it's nice to report that these movies are finding their footing as kidding blockbuster that will not totally insult kids' intelligence or leave their parents journeying for the fattest exit possible. If there's a common ground to unite the demographic, it's probably a shared appreciation for the film's comic ringer, who is as much as cartoon as our wide-eyed and per-internet demand, gently appealing hero. The star's one-man buddy comedy is what you can call a chase of successful sell. Double the carry, double the fun. Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Keanu revised the Shadow we have always wanted in an incredibly epic circle with just one flaw. It's safe to say that in this age of ever-growing franchises, Paramount Sonic the Hedgehog series is one of the strongest and most beloved, considering how the 2020 original is best known for redoing the articular characters designed after online outcry. It's clear director Jeff Fard knows exactly what fans of the Blue Speedster want, and is happy to give it to them. And so comes Sonic the Hedgehog 3, closing out the years with perhaps one of 2024 most anticipated arrivals. In some ways, the Sonic the Hedgehog movies are tricky to break into if you are not a fan of the games. The fueler and writers Bad Coy, Josh Miller, and John Ringen keep the reference easy to follow. I still get the impression they are winking at those in the know at the same time as a testament to Playful One, at Spare Fueler has created Sonic the Hedgehog. 3 still manage to be welcoming to outsiders like me. Shadow is the MVP of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 picks up sometime after the events of his 2022 predecessors, which saw the apparate demise of Dr. Montic and the arrival of Knuckle the Agenda. Ardisila still Horace in the role. Sonic has settled into his found family with Tom and Maddie, basking in the peace that comes after saving the day from a mad Centis. Of course, the peace doesn't last long before Sonic, Knuckle, and Tails are soon called up by gun guard units of Nation to deal with a new threat. Sad Threat is the character teased at the end of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Shadow, an incredibly powerful hedgehog with black and red coloring instead of blue. Shadow's been kept in containment for years after a mysterious incident at the lab he was housed in. But with the help of a somewhat familiar adversary, he has gotten out and he is looking for revenge. Fans of the games will know the truth of Shadow's backstory from the get-go, but I will not get into too much detail here for anyone who doesn't know their rings from their cause emeralds. Suffice to say, Shadow is suffering from a broken heart, a far cry from his fellow anthropomorphic hedgehog. In many ways, he is Sonic Mirror, and that only makes their conflict more compelling, particularly later on when a spoiler-worthy plot point arises. Rhea's casting as Shadow was heavily rumored before it was announced to the P, where it was amused he'd be perfect, well ahead of anyone actually hearing his rendition. Much like how Knuckles stole the show in Sonic 2, Shadow is the standout of the third movie. Fowler effectively introduced him and his backstory through engaging stage action, sequence, and heart-tagging flashback. In many ways, he is Sonic Mirror, and that only makes that conflict more compelling, particularly later on when a spoiler-worthy plot point arises. Riv does a brilliant job conveying Shadow's heart and steel, adding to his formidable presence. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has so many exciting new characters. On top of the threat Shadow possess, there's also the return of Car's eccentric Robotic, who naturally is not as dead as Sonic 2 might have suggested. In fact, there are 2 rebounding now as A.O. is reunited with his long-lost grandfather Garens, also played by Carrey. But the beloved actor is largely retired these days. He hardly misses a step in bringing the Volky villain to life, throwing himself into the dual roles with gusto, and plenty of his signature physicality. Despite all that, this is still a Sonic movie, even if the blue plur is at times feel like an afterthought in his own story. This time around, he is grappling with the concepts of being part of a team alongside Tails and Knuckle. And Sigurt's vocal performance is as enigmatic and amusing as ever, but the character's arc drops in and out of the story, giving it a disjointed feeling. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 reels it back in by the end, offering a satisfying conclusion that shows the lead character has learned a thing or two from his latest adventure. It is true there are 2 post-Reddit scenes featuring thrilling cameos not unlike the 2 previous movies. It seems all but certain that Sonic has a number of big-screen adventures ahead of him, and I have full confidence that his fans will be happy to take that journey with him. This is a franchise that has treated its sporters with respect while opening its arms to newcomers. Because of that, the weaker elements of the film feel unimported in the wake of the generally entertaining time that will no doubt thrill audience for all ages. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 released in theater Friday, December 20th. It is 109 minutes long and rated PG for action. Some Venice route thematic element and mild language. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 ending. Explain Shadow and Sonic's fight. Major death and a sequel setup. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 surprisingly emotional ending highlight the arc of the film's villain in a compelling way. While the film remains focused on the titular Blur, Blue and his friends, the latest entry in the cinematic Sonic series is keenly focused on the emotional arc of characters like Shadow the Hedgehog and actor Al Riontic. While the film never tries to hide the fact that the 2 are comedic, villainous act of selfish reasons, Sonic the Hedgehog 3's cast of character are given more depth and evolution than one would expect. This is even true to the film's other main villain, Garantic. Despite having a surface-level basic villain plan, Garen's emotional motivation play into the film's overarching theme about grief, love, and growth. It's a very effective way to play with the film's emotional arc, and helps give the story a sense of natural finality, even while the ending leaves the door open for more Sonic the Hedgehog sequel and expansion of the franchise. Do Shadow and Robotic die in Sonic the Hedgehog 3's ending? The ending of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is a respectively meaningful one, with Shadow and Dr. Abroic seemingly sacrificing their lives to save the world. For much of the film, Shadow and Robotic follow the goals of Gerald Robotic to enact revenge on Gunn for their previous action 50 years ago. This leads to the launching of the Escape, scanning a space station capable of unleashing a laser blast that could swipe out all life on Earth. Both Shadow and Robotic ultimately decide to protect the world, even if it means they cannot escape the space station before it explores. While Shadow will likely return in future entries of the franchise, it seems like a natural end for Robotic. While the post-Reddit scene teases Shadow's survival, there's no indication that Remote could have escaped the explosion that consumes the situation. In fact, Robotic's final scene sees him stream a message to Earth where he apologized to Agent Stone and calls him a friend. This gave the scene a sense of finality and underscores the theme of the film about the bonds people form, all while giving the Goofy villain a surprisingly endearing heroic moment to go out on. While Shadow will likely return in future entries of the franchise, there seems like a natural end path for Robotic, Geralt's robotic plan, and death in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Explain. Gerald Robotic is our grandfather and the chief scientist who was researching Shadow when he first arrived on Earth half a century before the events of the film. While the school scope of Kerala's intention all the time for left unclear, his rage over the death of his granddaughter Maria drove him to spend 50 years plotting his revenge. After giving Gunn the design of the S-Cannon, Geralt was able to escape, they're confident. His mission is to wipe up humanity as revenge for Maria's death, with the Eclipse Cannon prepared to wipe down Earth as well as himself. Gallard's raid at the V reflect the central theme of the film about Mother Longclaw, but has found comfort in her memory. This resonates with Shadow, who is forced to reflect on the impact Maria had on him instead of his rag at having lost her. Geralt is the Bossk narrow grief someone so consumes by the loss of a grandchild that he is unable to gently love his other one. Even Robotic reflect his arc openly grieving his leak of connections to others. Obic's horric moment comes with Geralt as see him out for having no one he cares about on Earth, and Robotic sadly realized that he does value stones. This realization purpose Robotic to save the world and finally become a hero. Sonic almost gives in to grief with Tom is injured by Shadow, but he remembers the love Tom shared with him and Reliance saving the world in the process. Sonic the Hedgehog is a surprisingly emotional story about overcoming grief, and it gives the video game movie more depth. Sonic the Hedgehog released in 2024, ending in Easter eggs explained by Tractor as he breaks down Sonic Force production progress. Director Jeff Furr delivered everything fans hoped for in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and he took all of it very seriously. While talking with Screen Red for the movie's digital release, the filmmaker behind all three installments of the hit video game adaptation broke down his approach to faithfully adapting the source material, namely the epic final fight between Shadow and Sonic, as well as why the movies have not directly adapted a certain sequence for the games. Through having made his directorial debut on the first movie, Furr has actually been a major part of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, going back to his time as an animator, making on the CGI movie production team of the 2005 Shadow the Hedgehog spin-off game. This led to his recreating numerous iconic shots in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, namely Shadow welding a gun while onboarding a motorcycle, with the character being one of the biggest introduction to the franchise yet. Fuller took the casting of Shadow very seriously, with Canoris playing the iconic anti-hero in the prequel. Combined with an emotional story for the character as well as for Jim Carrey, in the double role of aero-romantic and his grandfather Garland, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 not only become the best-reviewed installment in the franchise, but also the best-reviews video game movie of all time on Rotten Tomatoes. In hour of the movie's digital release, Screen Rat interviewed Jeff Furr to discuss Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie's groundbreaking success, creating the emotional and fitting ending for Gary's romantic. While the movies had only slightly adapted and iconic singers from the games. The post-Reddit introduction of Emmy and Metal Sonic and an update on the development of Sonic the Hedgehog 4 having critics on board for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is all the more meaningful for Fuller. Security Rat says that I must admit, going back to when I was a kid, I am a huge fan of this franchise, and the movies and the TV show have done it so much justice. So kudos to you and the team on that. This movie has set so many records, not only at the box office, but especially with the reviews. I'd love to hear what it's been like for you. To see such a strong reaction to this film, Jeff Fuller, I have been incredible, obviously. We make these movies for the fans and for family audience and people all around the world. That is our priority, to give them a great experience. The short of multi-generation fans, like the parents that grow up with the character, can share it with their kids, and hopefully the kids then can become fans. But then to have the correct side of thing is great. Honestly, we work really hard on these films. We take the storytelling very seriously. To be nourished in such a positive light and create, really very proud of anyone who contributed to the film. Feeler recognized City Escape has only been filtered within the movie. Now you can talk about wanting to please the fan. You have mentioned before how the fans would hunt you down if you left out live and learn, and I was thrilled by its inclusion. But I will say I have been crying out since the first movie for Escape from the City, and I saw it was in the credit, but I did not actually catch it in the movie. Have you had any thought about properly doing the sequence in one of these movies? Yeah, it's so funny because the imaginary we have kind of filtered with is a little bit obviously in the first movie when Sonic is being chased through San Francisco, but it's still obviously robotic chasing him. It's not a giant gun truck, and then of course Sonic jumps out of the helicopter in this movie. So we have come a filter with it, but we have never just wholesale commented to it. And then, of course, we did the snowboard in Sonic 2 with a little piece of dab that he serves around. And so all the elements are there, just in separate context. But anyway, no, it obviously is such an iconic sequence, so I don't fault you for asking it. A stone and robotics final scene is a wonderful way to celebrate their relationship. Now, in looking at the story, because obviously there are a lot of speller to talk about first, and foremost, romantic fate really brought me to tears, both times, and I saw it in the theaters. I'd love to hear your take on it, because when I talked to Pat and George, right as the movie was coming out, they said he is definitely dead, unless... And obviously the big challenge with 3 was coming up with a story that intrigued him to come back. So I'd love to hear what's your thought on robotic fat in this one. Yeah, I mean, honestly, what a wonderful way to celebrate romantic and Stone's relationship. It just clicked because initially It was all about bringing Jim back to play true characters. And that was the pitch. I was like, the first two films we have always explored family, but from Sona's perspective, and what a great opportunity it would be to do that from robotic side of things, and what does that do to him? How does he change once he has family in his life? That was such an interesting question to ask, and it was something that I know Jim lodged onto and just gave him some new. Troy? It's the last thing he would ever want to do is come back and just rehash the same performance from other films. So, to get to now have Evo as his short of dotting grandson to Geralt was just such a fun short of concept, but then to turn out that he has had a family all along right in front of him. It might not be blood family, but Stone is family nonetheless, and the love is there. So it's just great. It just lent itself to such great story material, and it's just wonderful to hear that landed for you, because for all the action and bombastic nature of our third act, that it become kind of so simple and so emotional at the end, I think is something we are all really proud of. Updates for Sonic the Hedgehog 4 will come in due time. So now we have obviously here that Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is already in the works. Are you cooking up ideas for how to win back, or are you looking up thinking that you are going to leave that be for now? I am enjoying a few weeks of respite for all the craziness. December was obviously a blur with the promotion and the release, and then once all the dust settle, it will be time to figure out next steps and start to have those conversations. But yeah, it's so exciting to see the etherism, the anticipation. I'll be there for what's next, because it's really challenging to keep these movies feeling fresh and have the stories feel fresh and keep the momentum. So that's the goal above everything. One of the things I'm really excited about seeing in the next one is proper arrival of Emmy after getting her in the credits for this one. Obviously, with Shadow's introduction, we didn't get a Wise, and we didn't get a Wise with Emmy for this one either. So I know you have got a few week respite before getting back to work on 4. But have you already thought about who you want to play her? Or are you waiting to see what Pat and Joe come up with in the script to watch the actor? I love to just watch the fan conversation and just see where things go. Obviously, casting is such a huge part of any of this character, but it does kind of come from the needs of the story and of the script. So I think I want to make sure that whatever direction it goes, that it is servicing the character needs for whatever story is being told. Well, you have done a fantastic job with the casting so far, so I'm sure you are going to do a great job with casting Amy for the next one. Now also, in the same sequence, we see the Metal Sonic in the games. Those are obviously created by, but is there already a plan of who actually created these are? Is that something you are saving for going into work on the 4th one? I mean, usually the way these post-Reddit teaser parking, we are so jamming on finishing the film, but at the same time you don't want to just throw character in there and not know what you are going to do with them. So there's certainly, as we were wandering dine on Sonic 3, and as we were preparing the post-Reddit teaser, we absolutely have a lot of really great creative discussions and got excited by some ideas, because you don't want to pee yourselves into a corner and put a character in there and then not know what you are going to do with it. But it's all very preliminary and much more work needed to come in order to really get that process going. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 ending explained. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has arrival in theater, and as promised, the film has multiple post-credit scenes to dive into, and a dramatic ending that sets up the franchise future. Paramount's picture began adapting Sega's iconic platform Come Short in 2020 with the release of the first Sonic the Hedgehog film. The film's reimagining Sonic living on Earth with the human family. A sequel film and spin-off TV series introduce further saga character to the screen, including Knuckles and Tails, and the third film will bring Shadow the Hedgehog into the fold. A fourth Sonic the Hedgehog film was recently confirmed to be in development, and the ending of the Sonic Hijack 3 sets things up for an interesting future. Directed by Jeff Fuller, release date is December 20th, 2024. The plot of the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 revolves around Shadow, the Hedgehog awakening from status, where he has been kept by the secretive Gun organization for 50 years. Shadow seeks vengeance on Gun for the death of his best friend Maria, who also happened to be the granddaughter of Dr. Geralt Robotic. Geralt and Shadow plans to steal 2 master keys from Gun, which will give them access to Geralt's S-Scripts cannon, a divesting weapon he designed. Geralt recruit his Garrets and Erontic to assist with their evil plan. But after they successfully steal path keys and launch the Escal cannon into space, Geralt reveals his true intention. He plans to use the cannon to any Heliotes at Earth and everyone on it, believing humans are not worthy of saving after Maria's death. After Shadow fatly warns Storm, Sonic goes against his team's wishes and uses the Master Emerald to transition into the supersonic form and go after Shadow. However, Shadow can absorb the energy of the Cause Emeralds to become Super Shadow, leading to a climatic space battle between them. When Sonic gains the upper hand on the Shadow, he cannot bring himself to kill the other Hedgehog. Realizing he has also been so consumed by rage, he is lost himself. Sonic and Shadow connect over the losses they have experienced, and Shadow agree to help Sonic stop the rebondings. Working together, the pair manage to alter the trajectory of the Eclipse cannon away from Earth before Shadow and Evo maneuver the cannon into space where it explodes. The film ends with Sonic, Tails, and Nickel reuniting with Maddie and Tom, who survived his injuries, and the crew engage in one last race to determine who is the fastest, who died in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Unfortunately, after making his debut in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Shadow's times in the franchise seemingly ends. The Hedgehog sacrificed himself to help push the malfunctioning Eclipse cannon into space, where it explodes and takes him with it. Shadow was consumed by rage to the point he wanted to end the Earth, and everyone during the film, but his final actions to save Earth, even at the expense of his own life, redeem him as a hero. All that being said, a post-Reddit seekers may hint at a future foreshadow. More on that later. Owen Garantic spent much of Sonic the Hedgehog 3's sun time in a glorious reunion after 50 years apart. However, Ao turns on his grandfather after learning of his true plans to destroy Earth. Sonic, Knuckle, Tails, and Shadow arrive to put a stop to Garens, who ends up being deintegrated in the chaos energy of the escape cannon. Ever and Shadow then agrees to do what's right for the people of Earth and keep the escape cannon from exploding just long enough for Shadow to push it to a safe distance away in space. Robotic goes out in supernova of glory, but not before transmitting a goodbye message to Earth and a tribute to his friend and henchman Agent Stone. Sonic the Hedgehog 3's post-credited scene explained. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has multiple post-credit scenes, the first half, which has major implications for the fourth Sonic the Hedgehog film after outrunning Knuckle and Tail in the race. Sonic finds himself in a New York State park where he is quickly surrounded by an army of metal hedgehog who look like him. This is no doubt a setup for Metal Sonic in the future, in the game's Metal. Sonic is an evil tree version of Sonic created by Dr. Robotic to take down the blue hedgehog. He can mimic, if not exceed, all of Sonic's ability and is one of his most dangerous views. Thankfully, Sonic is not left to fight these metal boards alone, as a savior in a haunted robe also arrives in the post-credited scene. Under the hood in Amy Rose, a pink hedgehog who is known as one of Song's greatest allies and love interest in the video game franchise. Amy wields her iconic weapon, the Pico Pico hammer in the scene, and the two prepared to deal with the metal army around them. This scene makes it clear that Amiro and Metal Sonic will be major players in Sonic the Hedgehog 4. Sitting through the full credit will reward audience with one more credit scene. The short sniper revealed a close-up of a set of familiar shoes, landing on the ground before a pair of hands leaned down to pick up two golden bracelets. The scene all but confirmed that Shadow survived the explosion of the Eclipse cannon, as the Hedgehog was seen removing his golden bracelet before the final act. It seems he has now returned to Earth to retrieve them after mercifully surviving his ordeal. Whether Shadow's next move is to reunite with Sonic Team R2 under Earth on his own. It seems likely he will be robbed into the action in the fourth Sonic film. Or perhaps his adventure will be explored in a spin-off series like Knuckles. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is the movie that have been waiting anxiously for the third installment to the blockbuster franchise since it was announced. And now the massive movie is here, and with a ton of new addition to the cast, as well as some wild and deep Sonic lore, following the blue blur as he faces down Shadow Koravis and two Dr. Reborn text.